Good evening, everyone. Tonight is October 15th and calling to order the Middleton Common Council. The time is now 7:30, requesting assistance on roll call.
Alder Schaefer is absent, excused. Alder Madden.
Here.
Alder Taylor.
Here.
Alder Nelson.
Here.
Mayor Hughes.
Here.
Alder Jackson.
Here.
Alder Tenio.
Here.
Alder Loman.
Here.
Alder Phillips.
Here.
Okay, and moving on to public comments. Have we received any?
Not receiving any paper handouts, nor is anybody with the electronic.
Excellent, thank you. Moving on to public hearings. The time is 7:30. Thalavias Indian Chinese Kitchen LLC, DBA Thalavias Indian and Chinese Kitchen, is requesting a Class B fermented malt beverage and Class B intoxicating liquor license located at 1920 Parmenter Street with Amin Khan at 3213 South Ridgecrest Court in New Berlin as agent. Is there any comments for this? Hearing none. Oh,
I wanted to confirm the actual name of the restaurant. Is it Thalavias or
Alevas, Indian and Chinese.
Thalevas?
Yes.
Thalaveas.
So the
Did I say
I,
Thalevas?
so the I
Okay.
goes before the V. Just want to make sure that if there's a license issue, it's got the correct spelling. That's it.
Excellent. Thank you for sharing that, and my apologies. I'll get better at this. All right, hearing no concerns, the time is 7:31. I will go ahead and close the public hearing.
Sorry, we just had to open it and just ask 3 times if there's anybody that's available to speak.
Anybody else? Anybody else? Okay, I hit the third. It's 7:32. I'm going to go ahead and close that public hearing. Moving on to presentation. The Energy Efficiency Navigator Program recap of 2022 to 24, and welcoming John from Elevate Energy. Please come to the front and introduce yourself.
I'm John Viner with Elevate, nonprofit based out of Chicago, running the Efficiency Navigator Program for the last 3 years in Middleton. So thank you for inviting me and giving me the opportunity to provide the update here. Right here. Okay. So I'm going to start quickly at 7, 8 slides. Just what is the Efficiency Navigator? I understand some council members are new, right? So the Efficiency Navigator program started about 3 years ago. We're wrapping up our 3rd year of funding using federal ARPA funds to deliver building improvements in small multifamily buildings. And it's been in a partnership with Elevate and our delivery partner, Sustain Dane, as well as the Senior Center and Way Forward has also really supported some of the efforts in outreach and just use of facilities and support in identifying these properties. So. Down. So we target small multifamily buildings that are unsubsidized, right? That have no federal subsidies. They're tenant occupied. The owner does not live there. And often these property owners, they just own an investment property or two and trying to maintain rent that's affordable. So it's a really good story. And the property owners that we've identified caring about the community, trying to give back. They're actually at or below HUD fair market rent values now, and they're trying to maintain that. They have great relationships with the tenants. It's just been one good story after another in terms of the property owners willing to give back. The Efficiency Navigator program, it's here because of shared and common goals, and it addresses both the housing and climate challenges that we face today, right? So it's a program, it's not just an energy program where we're insulating attics. It's more to that in terms as we move these buildings towards electrification and doing it well and doing it in a very meaningful, thoughtful way. So it really addresses the intersection of environmental, social, and economic justice for cost burden residents, right? That's the way we are delivering this program and about the mission, right? It's fostering innovation and technologies to these properties that often have, the tenants often have the highest energy burden in these older homes because often the utility costs are higher, they're least efficient, and we have low income tenants there. So they have a high energy burden. A greater percentage of their income moves towards the utility bills to pay the cost of living. And that's why we're targeting it and bringing innovation and technology, whether it's heat pumps or solar energy. Often we're focusing on new heating and cooling systems that remove fossil fuels when and where we can. This market segment would often be the last to actually receive that technology, right? They would be behind the curve, so to speak. And so we wanted to turn that on the upside down and get them out there, out in front. So these shared goals, right? Elevate Energy, the nonprofit, Sustain Dane, we share the mission with the city. So these are your stated goals from the comprehensive plan, which I think is great and excellent to bring up in terms of why we're here, right? It's more than just to save some amount of dollars, $20, $30 a year by adding insulation to your attic. It's way beyond that in terms of back to the prior slide of addressing the intersection of housing and climate and equity across our communities, right? And the shared goals that I have up on the screen, I don't need to read them. You probably know them, but that's why we're here, right? And in brief, some of the things that we did over the last 3 years, it was a 3-year program. First year, we didn't get a whole lot of work done because we were getting off the ground. The last 2 years is where we accomplished work in 13 buildings, hitting 27 units. The average implementation cost was around $17,000 per unit to get after these savings. These are implementation costs. And that's with a couple of units that actually, we got solar installed on 2 duplexes just last week, right? So very cool in terms of even the money that we're going to be saving those tenants that typically wouldn't see that amount of savings, right? So you can see the average savings without solar and with solar on the slide. So we do come about it with efficiency first, right? With a weatherization package, right? Reducing energy use, improving comfort. And then we add mechanical systems, ventilation systems, and we were lucky enough to put a little solar on top of it all on 4 units here recently. So when we do add solar, that's $1,000 a year per tenant, right? That's pretty cool, right? Even there's these implementation costs, nothing's for free, the implementation and then the administration of the program. But I think moving forward and doing more, it's great just to see the benefits that are going to result. And then the carbon savings that reach back to the comprehensive plan as well and our sustainability goals. We have to address buildings, right? That's the only way we're going to achieve some of the stated goals, right? Is to work within our housing.
Yeah, and just for our newer members, I don't mean to interrupt, but I just want to bring
Slow me
this back.
down, that's good.
Yeah, is part of the reason we wanted to do this was to try some of the new technology. So I know Katie was on the board when we were voting on this. And the reason I wanted to share this is that we wanted local construction firms to get to see some of the technology. You know, sometimes I will see like technology being added to new homes or like retrofitting a high-end home. But if we're not hitting some volume, you know, especially if we're, you know, going back and renovating on some of these duplexes and triplexes, that we can actually have these local construction folks who are hired, test out some of the technology, install it, and then what our goal was to also have it then shared back. What were some of the benefits we found by doing this? What technology did they like? And what would they do again? Because if they used their own money, maybe they couldn't do all of the things done to one duplex or triplex, but maybe they would have enough to do one of the 3 or 4 things that they were doing. So to start that dialogue long-term, because if you want to replicate throughout the system and somebody has maybe $4,000, they might not be able to do the $17,000 worth of things, but maybe some of the homeowners or landlords could talk about, hey, this was the number one thing we saw the best return of investment, and these are the price ranges, and hoping that that would organically be shared in the community. So with that, please.
Yeah, thank you, Emily. That's great. And so a few more buildings got full reports. They all got reports, and they had a roadmap of what they could do if we move forward. We couldn't do everything we wanted. There is a pipeline that the program has developed that we could go further, right? And they're in waiting. I think we did a great job over the last couple of years to get the work done. And then we have these roadmaps, the reports for property owners to take further measures that we weren't able to get to. Some case studies just to show some dollar savings. So this is with solar, just total weatherization package. We put in a lot of dual fuel heating systems. So it would be a gas furnace with a heat pump. So there's an option to heat with electricity with a heat pump, or to heat with natural gas, which is currently cheaper. So now there's flexibility in many of these units on how they operate that system. So it takes some education. Here in this slide, with the solar install, this is saving the tenant about $800 in this particular one unit, right, for this solar install. This scenario says we are going to heat more with the heat pump versus natural gas, but that unknown of what percentage will be heated with gas and electricity is going to be up to the tenant and how they use those sources. So we make good impacts, right? The weatherization package might be getting us $200-300 in savings, and then the solar gets $500 to $800 in additional savings for that particular tenant, right? So that family, it's a big impact for them. A case study here with out solar, right? So just energy conservation measures, a little more information in terms of what we did and the project cost. So these are implementation costs, hiring contractors to get the work done, to do the insulation, do the air sealing, and do the furnace upgrades. And then we have 10-year cost savings, just to give a perspective over time on what these tenants going to save with their pocketbook, but also the carbon emissions and the equivalency. So very exciting to see that particular duplex move forward within the program and see such great results, right? These improvements, these electrification improvements on older buildings is complicated, right? So sometimes I get input or ask the question, why aren't property owners doing it themselves? Well, they don't always have the incentive to do it themselves, right? Because they don't live there. They're not seeing that. It doesn't mean they shouldn't give back to the community, invest in it, but they're not going to go down the path that we went typically on their own. And often, as we'll get to in an additional slide, these old buildings weren't made to be electrified, right? This is something you have to know about. You just can't jump into it. So I wanted to make sure that this isn't just an energy efficiency program where we hire an insulator. I've said that before, and I'll probably say it again, right? There's a little bit to it. And some of these non-energy benefits, right? I've walked in properties in Middleton and carbon monoxide's in the basement. I measure it. I can tell it. The chimney's broken, and they've been living like this for years. right? I knew when we came into this program, I would find it, and I found it, right? It is there and it's a bad situation. So asking a property owner that has no idea, the tenants have no idea, and chimneys aren't working and there's carbon monoxide in the building. So we, as the program, were able to get a heating contractor out there within days to fix it before we did anything else, right? So we're coming forward to making sure that building is safe before we air seal, right? Before we tighten that building shell up and before we insulate and before we do other work, it has to be safe. We've developed comprehensive plans for properties to manage rodents, to manage smaller pests that are crawling around, and how to keep the property clean. So that type of roadmap has been developed for properties. Come across mold and we have to clean it up, and we have to then add ventilation, right? These are things that you just don't hire a contractor to put in a new cool heating system, right? It's a broad view of that structure to make it move forward together to solve existing problems and prevent future, right? That's what the program is about, right?
And we did get some county funding, if I recall correctly, for some of the remediations. Is that
Yes.
right? We had like a parents with children in the house or something.
Yes, so we, in addition to what I have on the slide, so if a municipality invested 150,000 or anybody invested in 150,000, we can leverage $60,000 from the IRA, Inflation Reduction Act, that's now launched. They're getting it launched, it's smoothing out, right? And those dollars will be available in addition to focus on energy. But this whole program, as stakeholders and other cities, towns, state governments, federal governments look at it, they want to expand it, right? And they've leveraged the Healthy Babies Brighter Future grant of $20,000 that actually went to help support indoor air quality that came to the community, right? We are estimating if the IRA incentives were available the last 2 years, we would have leveraged $40,000 of the 60,000 as IRA rebates, because they're very significant that are coming forward that we can do further and more within that community, right? And then the 10-year cost savings, this, the 150,000, if it went to all building improvements, we would get $23,000 in energy savings across 8 units. And in addition to the IRA rebates, which are big, focused on energy, Elevate has come forward in the community and moved our private philanthropy dollars into the community to play a big part in administering this program. We do that because we share the goals, right, that we've stated earlier, but we see this program will expand. We have other cities that are on board. There's an influx of funding coming. So we are always prepared because we knew that this was going to be a success, right? So thank you for helping us move the ball, and that ball is growing in size as it rolls downhill.
So great.
Um,
I do remember that conversation piece too, is that I think that was part of the dialogue at the time of approving it, was to get some of the construction firms and the anecdotal experience of the landlords, but also the folks renting there, so that when more things came on board from the nation and or the state and county, that we would already have some ideas, on where we could go if we so chose. So that's
Yeah.
a good reminder, and I
Yep.
appreciate that.
Yep, the contractor network that we work with they've been great in terms of all the health and safety things. They're trained. If you get the right contractor, they're trained to look at health and safety and say, we can't move forward unless this is fixed, right? And this is what we want from those contractors to make sure we're moving forward in a safe, efficient, and whole building approach, right?
Good.
And that's all that I have, just to take up a few minutes of your time. I really appreciate it.
Well, I do appreciate that. I know it was spread throughout the city. Initially, when they were looking at District 4, so in Alder Kalish's district, but it ended up being spread far and wide in the city, which I'm really glad that that happened. And that was just depending on, part of it is not only did they qualify, if the landlord is qualified and they agreed to the conditions. As a friendly reminder, the council at that time had said that they had marked it as for 5 years, the landlord couldn't increase rent. And so part of that is that as the utility dropped, it could be that, the landlord could say, well, you're saving $800 a year in heating, so, or utilities, so we're gonna raise the price, so much per month. And so the council at that time had that robust debate, and I'm very grateful for that. And I just share a little bit of that history because we did decide to invest in the program. We were hoping to hear of these good outcomes, and we're glad that neighborhoods can have naturally affordable, naturally occurring affordable housing throughout the city, but also keep that very local neighborhood feel. Because what I've seen in other cities is that as some properties fall in disrepair, sometimes people will come through and then just start building those taller buildings where smaller properties used to be. And it still happens in Middleton, but if we can preserve some of these neighborhoods, because we did this program and then we're setting up a conversation for others to take that investment and do it themselves, that's always a healthy thing. And I say that because one of the landlords I was talking to told me after you guys were working with him, and I had known him prior to the launch of the program just because of concerns about his property, and he would ask me questions. But one of the things he said was, after they started investing in my property, with this program, which part of it, by the way, is they had to agree to let them come in and just decide what will be worked on. So that's a lot to ask a landlord. But he said that he started to want to do other things. So he started, fixing the driveway, which was not part of this, and he wanted to make sure the neighbors felt good about him being a good neighbor. And I thought that was interesting, and I hope that happened for all of the properties. So I hope
Yeah,
that they
there-
continue to
Other
invest.
stories like that too, even our criteria at that HUD fair market rent values, there's one property owner that lowered rent after we invested to meet the criteria, right? So not only did they get the benefit, the landlord's saying, John, this is, I understand this is a good deal for me. I will lower the rent. I mean, who gets a rent decrease and a building upgrade, right? It's a very, very great story.
Any questions?
Just quickly, so what's the outlook for the future? So it looks like you're funded through 2024. With over $400,000 in funding, what's next?
For Middleton specifically, I am all ears listening for what is next. I know that there's efforts for TIF financing to look at, can TIF support this effort, right? Down the road. I know that that's not an immediate and only a potential, but that's an option. Right now, I am not aware of any funding for moving forward in 2025, right? But I know that wheels are turning, right? How do we continue some of this effort, and what should it look like, right? There are other, the contractor base, Madison and Fitchburg are on board, and they have funding, and they will be moving forward. So we'll be developing our network of property owners, our network of contractors, and fine tuning the delivery model ongoing. That's not going to stop.
Thanks.
Yep.
I think that's a really good question, Alder Kalish. And my assumption is what you're talking about is possibly the TIF release of funding. Okay, thanks. After we close the next TIF, and there will be a release of affordable funding or affordable housing funding for 1 year. something that we have talked about as a group. And that might be 26 or 27. So keep that on your radar because, it might be a portion of that, funding. But if you are reaching out to landlords in your district or to others who want to share down the road, that might help us understand what that looks like when that funding is available. So just keep your ears open as you talk to those landlords.
And as we, the IRA incentives are large, right? So if you have additional property owners, or as we reach out to existing property owners that participated in the program and needed to do more, I mean, income eligible properties, which ones we typically have worked with, there's $8,000 for a heat pump, right? There's 4,000, 5,000 for electrical system upgrades to electrify. There's thousands of dollars that we want to leverage in Wisconsin and Middleton that certainly are a big source of dollars in addition to focus on energy, right? So those two combined sources throw in tax credits, but I always do that, but they need to be, the property owner needs to live there, right? So they don't get the tax credit in these particular properties.
Can I ask Kelly Hilliard to come up for a minute?
Thank you.
Thanks for coming. Kelly, you might be already reaching out to community members on those type of tax credits, but I don't remember, so my apologies. Do we have like a website or a one pager on those, especially as they're federal tax credits, right? Okay. Do we have a handout or brochure, or are we working with somebody that's doing that?
Yes, Dane County has the best site that's constantly updated with the best information. And they've also done 2 Sustainable U educational events at the library. One was for residential folks and the other was for businesses. So there's also a video that will be linked to one of those sessions. But yeah, we're and Focus on Energy is in the community as well. So there needs to be much more so people get the word out.
Well, that's awesome.
I just wanted to mention, I believe the utility bills that we recently got, the water utility bills, had the Dane County flyer with the information
right.
on the credits.
Yeah, we've sent out 2 different utility flyers with that information on it to
Great.
everyone in Middleton. So
I love that.
Mhm.
Thank you.
yeah, that was the committee.
That's awesome. Did you?
Kelly, if you're willing, I just wanted to know how it went for you. I'm assuming you were the person who had to go through the applications and help decide which properties were eligible for the project.
That was more managed by Sustain Dane. They did all the intake interviews and vetted the property owners, looked through the applications, and really developed the relationship with the property owners as the point organization, along with Elevate. And then I went to the properties to walk through them with John, mostly to learn so that I understood what the challenges were and the situations were. Heard a lot of really amazing stories from the tenants and the property owners. So it was a really impactful program, I think, for Middleton and for those property owners. And, we had a press event as well at the Middleton Senior Center, which was really well attended, got lots of great press. And the property owners were really excited about it. So it was a positive thing.
That's wonderful. I'm really happy to hear that it didn't really have to load you up with more work. And then it was such a success. So, Mr. Viner, thank you so much for that presentation. I fully now, or not fully, just beginning to understand and appreciate everything you kind of step into, like the upgrades that have to be done before you even get to like, let's do this cool improvement. First, we have to have updated electric. We have, all of that. So kudos. That's a big deal for that amount of funding. So great.
And we are part of the Energy Futures Grant, which is a Department of Energy grant in conjunction with Madison, Sun Prairie, Fitchburg, and Sustain Dane and Elevate and Latino Academy to scale this program up. It's a planning grant, so there's no implementation dollars right now, but we're working on outreach, development of the workforce for these types of projects, and just program planning for that. So that's happening this next year. And Middleton will receive a portion of the funds from that grant just for planning.
Excellent. I have one more thing to say. I think, Alder Hanairo, I think you were part of really pushing for this project to get going. So congratulations. Thank you.
If I just must ask, how many projects have we impacted in Middleton? How many houses have you done so far?
It's 13 multifamily units, and that's 13 buildings, 27 units. So
Okay.
27 families.
Thank you so much. And hopefully we can highlight locations or something in the next year if people are willing, like the duplex. I'm just thinking, even if we bring it up in Middleton Minute, every 4 months. And I did see the flyer, but it's been one of those years. So just keep telling us so that we all do our part. And Kelly, thank you for your leadership. So thank you. Moving on to consent agenda. Is there a motion?
This is Hanairo. I move approval of the consent agenda.
Is there a second?
This is Jackson, I'll second.
Any comments? Hearing none. All those in favor of approving the consent agenda, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to ordinances, first reading. An ordinance annexing lands from the town of Springfield and the town of Middleton to the city of Middleton. Is there a motion?
Yes, this is Hanairo as the alder who is going to have this property added to my district. I move approval of the ordinance annexing the lands. Just the first reading.
Understood. Is there a second?
This is Alder Crowe. I'll second.
Okay. Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the ordinance to annex lands to the city of Middleton, please say aye.
Aye.
Actually, do we need to do a roll call vote? It said something to that effect in the document.
Oh, my apologies.
That's okay.
Brian, can you guide us?
Okay, so I'll call roll call. Please indicate whether you vote aye in favor, nay opposed, or present. Alder Schaefer is absent and excused. Alder Madden,
Aye.
Alder Kalish,
Aye.
Alder Nelson,
Aye.
Alder Jackson,
Aye.
Alder Norman,
Aye.
Alder Crowe,
Aye.
Alder Hanairo.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously.
Moving on to resolutions. Resolution 2024-49 requesting exemption from Dane County Library tax. Is there a motion?
This is Alder Crowe. I'll make that motion requesting exemption from the Dane County Library tax.
Is there a second?
This is Jackson, I'll second it.
Any comments? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving resolution 2024-49 requesting exemption from Dane County Library tax, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to resolution 2024-50 approving a TIF bond for the 3810 Parmenter Street Phase 2 development. Is there a motion?
This is Hanairo. I move approval of resolution 2024-50 as recommended by the Finance and Personnel Committee.
Is there a second?
This is Jackson, I'll second.
Any comments? My question is that in Alder Anira's district? Alder Jackson's? Okay, thanks. I was like back and forth because I know that boundary is over there. All right, thanks, everyone. All those in favor of approving the TIF bond for the 3810 Parmenter Street Phase 2 development, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Moving on to discussions, any updates on committees, commissions, and boards?
I just wanted to report from the Plan Commission. At our last meeting, we subdivided the property at 2159 Allen Boulevard into 4 lots, 4 lots. And then we also made referrals for the preliminary plat for the Ziegler Farm development. We made referrals to various committees. So that's a proposed new 173 single-family home development on the property that we are halfway through annexing.
Thank you for that update. We love hearing houses going up in Middleton. Thank you. Any other committee updates? Okay, just so you know, a little bit off topic, the school district did a friendly reminder for parents tonight on public safety. So the reason I'm bringing it up is the police commission and our police officers were over there tonight. So thanks to them, you might see some postings. All the good works. Moving on, and actually we've been doing some things for CDA, haven't we? We've been trying to look at what is holistically a part of CDA and see if we are meeting those things. So you'll be hearing more and hopefully do great community events in the meantime. So anything else? Hearing none, moving to adjournment. Everyone have a great night.